So I think we are ready to go. Robin, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Sky. I really appreciate this invitation. I'm very excited to speak with everyone. So for the last 2 years, I've been working on the new edition of my book, Advertising by Design. And while I was working on it, and I'm always thinking about how can I best teach this to university students, I thought, well, let me see if I can do a quick start guide, like this, make this really codified and rapid. So that's what I'm going to share with you today, and as well as some other things. So the first thing you really have to do when you are an art director, or a junior art director, junior copywriter, is learn a ton about the brand. Oops, but you know what? Sorry, I'm going to have to go back. I skipped a slide. There we go. Sorry about that. Before you learn a ton about the brand, you want to get a handle on it. And we really live in an attention economy. It's very hard to get people's attention. There's entertainment out there 24/7. How do you compete with that? So you have to catch people's attention, keep people's attention, and when you finally get it, you have to reward their attention as well. And in order to do that, advertising really must either inform people or entertain people, be useful, do good, social good, perform some kind of function, some kind of utility, or do all of that, which is a tall order. And advertising really has to move the needle. And I think this is really important to understand, from being relevant to people to being essential. Richard Grimm, Chief Creative Officer at Adam and Eve DDB in England, said, does the ad stop you? Does it cut through? Does it stay with you? And of course, I'm sure you've heard about cutting through, breaking through, cutting through the clutter. That's still the case. So you really have to know your audience. I have a little technical issue here, sorry. So we do have to know the audience, but we're going to go back to learning a ton about the brand. So you really have to get the facts. You have to investigate. You have to understand what's the why behind the brand. So the brand is create something, whether it's a service or a product. So that's the what. But why? Why are they doing what they're doing? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Is the competition doing anything better than they are? One way to find out about this, if you don't get good information from the agency, and the agency will provide research to you, is to do some social listening. Go on to Twitter, go on to Instagram, look for hashtags, see what people are saying about the brand, because the brand has its own values and its own perceptions, but people have other opinions about the brand, and they'll let you know what the brand is doing right and doing wrong. In fact, Domino's actually listened on social media and really even changed their product. How's the brand evolved? Is it consistently delivering? So the more you know, the easier you'll have a time of creating for the brand. Something is wrong with my presentation. I'm really sorry. It keeps skipping around.
It's really good so far.
Oh, thank you. I don't know, it's either my mouse or something. I apologize. So you really want to know your audience. Who are they? And it's not just a matter of knowing the demographic. You really have to understand who you're targeting. Where do they hang out? Which social media platform are they on? You have to know whether they are on TikTok or whether they are on Instagram, and you really have to figure out how you can reach them, and then decide on the platform, then decide on the medium. What are their pastimes? What do they like? Where do they shop? Where do they vacation? Where do they spend their money? What do they spend their money on? What are they saying about your brand on social media? What does all the data reveal? Because you're going to get a lot of data, but you have to use it to get an insight. And here's the really important thing, and this is where art directors and copywriters and eventually creative directors, they weren't psychology majors in college, but they really have to have a handle on understanding human behavior. So people purchase products, services to meet needs, right? If you're hungry, you buy food. Well, that's a basic need. If you need a bed, that's a pretty much of a basic need. You need a house, that's a basic need. But beyond that, you're really purchasing what I would call a fantasy or an aspiration, right? So if I'm at my age buying face cream that will make me look younger, well, that's pretty much a fantasy, right? That's not only an aspiration, but a fantasy. So, you know, advertising is appealing to people's desires to improve themselves for self-attainment, for transformation. So whether it's a hope that we'll look younger or perkier, or our hair will smell better, or we'll be able to run faster, that's how you have to understand your audience. I'm just going to check again to make sure I didn't skip anything. I did. See, something's wrong with my mouse. I'm sorry. The strategy. So you're going to get strategy given to you in the form of a creative brief. And the creative brief may be really well written, or it may be really skimpy. If it's skimpy, you have to do some research on your own. You have to ask really good questions. But the brief is your purpose guide. It is the overall strategy for the brand. It positions the brand in the marketplace. It positions the brand against the competition. It gives you a sense of the entire structure, the system, the architecture of the brand, and how the brand fits into the brand family or into the parent company, and especially how it fits into the marketplace and into people's lives. It may offer some kind of insight to you. So what you're looking for here is what differentiates the brand from the competition. You have to build the differentiation factor in order to build a relevant connection with the audience. What makes it meaningful? What's in the strategy? What value does the brand offer? How will it improve my life? Can it become, I absolutely cannot live without this brand, right? So if I asked you, would you rather give up your significant other or your iPhone? I would bet you'd say your significant other, but I won't ask you. How does a brand become an absolutely, I can't live without this brand? How does it move into becoming a brand you like to a brand that you love? And here's a really good way to test that. Can you turn the brand strategy into a 3-sentence story? And this is where my fiction writing comes in, and knowing how to write short stories or knowing how to write commercials. When we teach writing, and we teach fiction writing, and we teach especially short stories or commercials, because it has to be tight, it has to be short. You have a main character. The main character wants something, and there's usually an obstacle in the main character's way. So if somebody wants a date for the prom, and the person feels that their breakouts are keeping that's the obstacle for them, how do you get them what they want? How does the brand become the wingman? How does the brand become the facilitator? So you can use this little 3-sentence story. The consumer wants this, the obstacle to getting what the consumer wants is this, and the brand can facilitate what the consumer wants because. And that because is really important. And just to give you the little short story thing, I teach COW, character, obstacle, want. Very easy to remember. We're always looking for an insight. This is really hard, and this is hard for students to get. It's even hard for professionals to get, because what you're looking for is a truth about human behavior. Certain comedians are really great at revealing insights into human behavior. People like Chris Rock or Jerry Seinfeld or Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres, remember, she had a whole monologue about the little bag of pretzels you get on an airline and how you're so excited to get this tiny little bag of pretzels. I mean, what's the insight there, right? We're always looking to understand what motivates people. What do they think about something? How do they behave? And you really do need an insight into the audience. So for example, when Dove beauty soap totally changed their advertising, the insight was that women were saying negative things about themselves on social media. And Dove realized this and thought, how can we change that conversation? How can we make women see how beautiful they are? But that was an insight into the behavior of the people who they were targeting. So it's really helpful to go onto social media and do social listening. You can do small scale field research, like going into a supermarket and seeing what people are doing at the shelf. Thinking about it from the audience's point of view is really critical. It's empathy, right? You really need to be empathetic. You don't look down on anybody, you don't shame anybody, but you really try to see what's the pain point? What's the barrier for them to getting what they really want in life? You know, whether that is getting from A to B because they don't have a car, or having whiter teeth, or having shinier hair, or getting an education, all of that. And it's really important to observe people. You know, do you think that the Oreo commercials of showing people taking their Oreo apart and eating it differently, the ad people wouldn't know that unless they watched how people eat a cookie, right? How do people do things? And then you really have to synthesize all of it. And this is really critical. This is what Schrodinger said. The task is not so much to see what no one has yet seen, but to think what nobody has yet thought about that which everybody sees. So we all observe life every day, but it's the really great creative person who can say, oh yeah, I see how that person's behaving. Maybe that will lead to an idea. And you want to align it with the drivers of human behavior. Human behavior is first and foremost a kind of investment. Individuals do what they do because of either implicit or explicit benefits as desired outcomes. Now, what does that mean? I always ask my students, why are you in college? And they'll say, to get an education. And I'll say, well, let's push that. And why don't I'll ask all of you, why do you go to college? Let me see what you say in chat. Why get a degree? Anybody? For better opportunity, to get a job, gain knowledge in the career path, get an understanding, prepare for the workforce. And why do you want to get a job? To have a decent living, future security. Oh, okay, wait, Danielle. Where's Danielle?
Hi, I'm right here.
Right, there you go. Survival, right? That's why your parents want you to have a career. That's why your family wants you to have a career. That's why you want to have a career. It's very, very basic. You know, a lot of it comes down to very basic things. That's right. And it's hard to, like, we don't get all the way to that very primal step. Why do we, all right, let me ask you again. Why do we, and I'm hoping all of you do, why do you wear deodorant?
To
Let
smell
me see
good.
what you say in chat, or just jump in. Feel free to talk. To smell good, safety of others, not to stink, so we don't stink. Belonging. Haley, where are you? Haley,
Right here.
what do you mean?
I saw it on the slide and I was like, you don't want to stink because you want to belong.
You want to belong, and how come you want to belong? I don't want to just put pressure on Haley. Anybody, come on. Why do you want to belong? What happens if you have nobody? Let's go to number 2.
It's sad.
It's sad, but also you need community to survive, right? So we don't really want to be ostracized because we stink, because we're not wearing deodorant. We want to belong because we want to survive. So all of these things, you know, why do we want love? Why do we want sex? Why do we want to acquire things? Why do we wear jewelry? Anybody? Let me see, what are you saying? Flashy. Makes your outfit looks better. Flex, highlight features, make a statement. Come on, push it, push it. Why do you wear jewelry? Push it further. You don't, nobody wants to attract anybody? A lot of us, yeah, make us look rich, add status, make us look good, make us attractive, right? Procreation, it's all really very, very Freudian if you think about it, but you really have to think about drivers of human behavior. And here's something that's really important. And when I have my students ideate, and I realized I skipped the slide on ideation, I'll have to go back to that, because without a great idea, that's not going to do much. I really push for them to understand that you have to offer something to people, either information or entertainment, something useful like a utility, like an app or a map or something, a calculator. And certainly you want to do good and you want it to be relevant. So I'm just going to go back a second, sorry. You want to have a point of view too. The brand has a point of view and you have to really create an indelible brand attitude when you're creating your ad. And what art directors do and graphic designers do is really make sure that the craft, the beauty of the ad that you're seeing, the execution is something that will stop people. It has to be arresting. It has to be interesting imagery. Otherwise, it's not going to break through. It's not going to interest anybody. So art direction orchestrates the visual appearance of advertising. And it combines the concept, the design, and the aesthetics to communicate to people in a variety of ways. It establishes a visual appearance, what we call a look and feel, which you could call style, and a tone of voice, a tone of visual appearance. And it's the architect, the art director who builds this visual world. You have to be involved with world building. And craft is important. What it looks like is important. You really do want to have that North Star concept, the main idea that is communicated through the art direction and design. Does the color palette, the imagery, the typeface, the layout, the style, all convey the idea and the message that's appropriate? Did you visualize it in a way that enhances the brand voice? Does the design make the ad solution cohesive, flow? Is it accessible? Are you using design principles to communicate? And of course, you have to critique and refine your own work before you show it to anybody, right? Would it compel the audience to engage with it? I just presented at Creative Week this morning, and right before me, Nick Law presented. Nick Law is one of the greats in the advertising industry. He was at RGA for a very long time, and now he's at Apple. And he said that you really always want to think about the action that the audience is going to take. What do you want them to do? And it could be an action like sharing. It could be an action like going to a website. It could be an action like buying. But you have to really understand what action you want people to take. Is the ad interesting? Would they seek it out? So if you created branded content online, would people go look for it the way they did look for the BMW films? Is it worthy of their time? There's lots of stuff we can all do. There's plenty to do. We don't have to spend it with advertising. So it has to be worthy of people's times, or it has to be share worthy. What do you want to make them feel? If it's not emotional, it's not going to imprint. And emotional can be funny, it can be sad, it can be bittersweet, but you want to make people feel something. And if you make them laugh, if you create entertainment, then you will make them feel. What's the takeaway? What's the main takeaway message? And can you actually change people's perceptions about the brand? And here's a very important message that I'm going to give to you tonight. I spent a year writing a social justice treatise. We really, because we create pop culture, because we create cultural artifacts, we have a responsibility to be a force for good and to build trust with people. We have to commit ourselves to uplifting all members of society, including those of different races, ethnicities, genders, sexualities, religions, beliefs, ages, and abilities. In that spirit, here are some questions to ask when you're creating advertising solutions, because systemic inequality can inadvertently shape thinking and ideas. Additionally, encouraging existing hegemonic systems can be especially dangerous in advertising because we set out to persuade people. So when you're creating imagery or copy, please think about asking yourself these questions. Have you interrogated the images for meaning? Is a stereotype or trope being employed relative to race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, age, ability, or religion? Is the imagery respectful? Does it degrade or dehumanize or diminish any group, even with humor? If possible, have you sought out an outside perspective? And when we create imagery, we're creating images that represent power relationships. So who holds the power in your representation? Have you thought about how someone of a different group would experience it? Does this solution contribute to any hegemonic systems of oppression? Would any group be marginalized by this representation or message? Does it build or destroy? Does the solution read from multiple perspectives? Are you employing another's narrative or culture? Is it yours to appropriate? Is cultural value lost due to the representation or idea? Are you respecting another culture, traditions, or customs, particularly those that are held sacred, and is credit properly given? On to my teaching. So I do give out the social justice treatise for students so they can critique their work. I also, and this is available to you, I'm happy to share it with you. This is a checklist. I'm a checklist queen. I think checklists really help you think about what you need to do, and you should always keep them handy. It's very important to make sure that all the touch points throughout an integrated campaign hang together. So you want to go through the conceptual aspects, the copy, and the visuals. So this is really handy to have. I do something interesting with my students that most people don't do. Most people assign brands to students, like let's do an ad for Coca-Cola or let's do an ad for Lysol. I don't. Sometimes I do, but mostly I don't. I ask students to create unique content first, because I think content is everything, and I think everything is content. And then we determine which brand it could serve. Oops, again, I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. It's jumping. So here are the methods that I use to get people to create unique content. Sometimes I'll give them a verbal prompt, like I'll say, that's a thing. And they have to figure out in pop culture, what's a thing and what can they do with it? Or I'll give them a visual prompt, like combine flat color with a photo, and I'll show you one of those. Or I'll give a scenario. I'll say, how many people here don't like Valentine's Day? Well, let's figure out an event for people who hate Valentine's Day, or an activity. And then we figure out what brand we can align it with. Or, and this is a really easy one, I'll say, give me 10 tips to help college freshmen navigate their academic experience. And they do, and they come up with great, great tips. And I say, well, now we have content. What can we do with it? What brand could utilize this content and how could they distribute it? Or I'll give them a little writing exercise, like come up with a cheesy pickup lines or a love poem to ice cream. And then I'm going to show you what we do with it. I give them a lot of illustration exercises, which they really love. It was great during lockdown and being online, and we just kept drawing and creating stuff. It was so much fun. Culture jacking, a pop culture moment. During the election, that was really easy to do. It's always easy to look at the front page of a newspaper and see what's happening. And it teaches you to keep your eye on pop culture. And then one that's very, very important, I think, for me especially, and I've been doing it for a very long time, and that's brand activism. We identify social issues that students feel very strongly about, and then we match it to a brand's values and see if they can create a brand activism campaign for that brand. Here's the, this is Holly Taylor. She graduated in December 2020. And this is the result of her love poems to ice cream. She created a campaign for Ben & Jerry's, and you're just seeing one part of the campaign, but she wrote these really fun, roses are red, your label is blue, chunks of chocolate and brownie make my taste buds do kung fu. Here are the cheesy pickup lines. Giselle Padilla did a campaign for Papa John's, and this was great fun because it showed me that Giselle was a really funny person, which I didn't know about her before these. So this is a little bit more traditional. People call me John, but you can call me tonight. Share a pizza on pepperoni. Here's another one. Oop, I inadvertently stopped sharing. Sorry about that. I did want to just go back to a slide. There's another one that Giselle did. And these all move, by the way. I'm showing you screenshots, captures, but all of Giselle's have motion involved. She's also a MAPE person. She's in the MAPE program right now. This is the exercise where you combine a photo with flat color. This was just like a 10-minute exercise that we did in class. Just want to go back one, sorry. This was a fun exercise. We went on to Google Earth. And we said, I asked, where would you like to visit since we were all in lockdown? And we went and visited different cities in the world. And I asked people to do a map of their day in a particular city. So this is Dhruva Patel's map of what she would do in Rome for a day. So what this does is that students really learn to create unique content that's original. Nobody else has it. Very importantly, they learn to scrutinize a brand to determine its voice and values, its audience, to see if it fits. They're examining environments in pop culture, they're expanding their visual vocabulary, and they're learning to write a little bit more, and their thinking becomes very fertile. What my students come back and tell me is when they're in agencies and they're on a team, they say, well, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. Pardon me. Another very important part of my teaching is I assign passion projects. And in one of my courses, I assign a passion project the very first day of class, and it's due the very last day of class. And this is something that is self-assigned in a way. I don't tell people what to do. They have to figure out something that they're passionate about and work on it. This is Tayana Lee's passion project. She's an extraordinary painter, and that's what she did she's still doing it. And it really infused her work. She's extraordinary. Melissa Tito is on this call right now. She's here if she'd like to talk about it. Her passion project is called the Backspace Project. Melissa, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I could talk about it. So, hi everyone. I did the Backspace Project, and I am very much a Latina, a proud Latina. But of course, I have experienced my fair share of racism in a world where racism is very open nowadays. You know what I mean? So what I wanted to do was basically create a project that takes pain and makes it into power. So I'm promoting togetherness and education through the stories that I would share. So what I did was collect anonymous stories that I gathered from people online, all anonymous, and type them out on a typewriter to basically share this message that with the typewriter, you know, there's no backspace button on it, right? So these stories are undeletable and something that you shouldn't necessarily erase, but like continue on, learn from your mistakes, and yeah, just continue on with greater understanding.
Thank you, Melissa. Did you find that when you had interviews with creative professionals that the passion project was a good talking point?
Yeah, everyone really liked this project and really asked me, how can I help you make it bigger? You know, what can I do to bring more attention to this?
And this is Melissa's website that you can visit. And this is Maria Dominguez. I think Maria's here too. And she also did a passion project. And Maria and Melissa worked very closely together, right, for their time together at our university. And they, in fact, sorry about that.
For those that don't know, our nickname is Eminem.
Eminem, that's right. They created several projects together. This was one big one that they started with a third person, and then they switched that third person to another third person once they were in portfolio class. And this has been a long, right? This is like a 1.5-year project for Gatorade, where you had multiple touch points. Oh, I didn't mean to say thank you yet. Don't leave. I don't know what's happening. My screen is possessed. Just show you a few more. This just won yesterday. This won a Young One award for one of the briefs for WhatsApp by Holly Taylor. So we're very proud of her. I also assign the briefs. And you can visit and see a lot of my students' works. At our website, we have the portfolios up there. You can see Maria's right there in the center, and we archive some of them. We also have graphic designers and industrial designers, architects, and interior designers. And that's it. Thank you so much. If you want to reach me, oh, I lost that slide too. There I am. Want to get in touch? Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That was terrific. I know there are a lot of people on this call right now that are interested in creative advertising. So I'm, really glad that they got to learn from a brilliant leader in the industry. Does anyone have any questions for Robin? Feel free to come off mute, come on camera, ask your questions to her directly, or I can read them out from the chat. There are a lot of thank yous in the chat.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. And you can ask Melissa and Maria questions too. They're both here then.
Good. Yeah.
Here, I can start off with a question, Robin. Do you have any advice for students that are putting together their portfolios?
Absolutely. I think that at this point, the One Club, which is the Creative Advertising Club looks for 6 projects. At least 4 of them should be fully fleshed out, integrated campaigns, meaning multiple media, how you think across media. And then 2 could be a little bit smaller. I really recommend a passion project or a side hustle. Side hustle, the difference is passion project is something you're doing on your own, but you're not making money on, whereas a side hustle, you're actually earning some money on this other thing that you do, whether it's you're selling your paintings or you're a photographer or something like that, or a musician in a band. But it's the passion project that really gives the potential employer a sense of who you are, because they're not only hiring you for your ideas and your craft, but because they want to hang out with you, right? So they want somebody who's interesting, and it just gives you, that passion project shouldn't be advertising. It should be something other than that to show who you are and what you are interested in. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. So Richard has a question. He has his hand raised. So Rich, if you want to come off mute, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Robin. Thank you for that
Hi.
presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if you had any tips for someone, because I've been in this position in the past and I don't know how I exited it, but when you feel like you're exhausted of ideas or like creatively exhausted, what someone could do in that situation.
We all get there, right? I think it's always good to go to other arts. When I feel that way, I watch a really good film, or I go see a play, or I read a really good book, or I even watch a really good television program, because you're then have insight into another creative mind. So like if you think about Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, right? Lin-Manuel Miranda had just done In the Heights. It was off Broadway. It was about to go to Broadway. He was going on vacation to chill out because he was in the Heights. He was the star of it. And instead of picking up a book about the theater or about music, he picked up a book about Alexander Hamilton. And here he's reading the story of one of the founding fathers, thinking, wow, you know, I could write this in hip hop lyrics. Yeah, so I think if you go to other places, other spaces, it really is refreshing. I always go to a museum when I'm feeling a little stale, what I'll do is I'll go to a room I wouldn't normally go to, rather than going my old favorites, just to get a kind of kick in the head. But I really, there's so much wonderful stuff out there, and a lot of creatives will look at award-winning work. And I do that too, but mostly I go to other art forms because I just find that so enriching and thrilling. You know, if I watch, I don't know if you saw, there was a TV show called Perry Mason. It was a redo of old Perry Mason. And it was so brilliantly written that I was just so excited about the storytelling that my mind was just racing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really definitely does. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I love that example you used about Lin-Manuel Miranda. I had no idea. That's awesome. So we do have another question in the chat from Ram. Can you please share best practices or common mistakes to avoid during the insight phase?
Most students, and I think even some professionals, think that an insight is a fact, but it's really not. It's a behavior. It's a behavior. It's what people do. How do people eat their pizza? When do they order it? What annoys them about pizza delivery? So was it Domino's? Domino's decided to spend money on filling potholes in a city because people were complaining that their pizza was being delivered and the cheese was lopsided. So the insight was that people wanted their pizza intact, right? So it's not so much a fact as looking to see what people are really thinking and what they want from the brand.
Great. And for any of you that are registered for our CAMS course through the ANA, there is a section that talks about insights and, asking why, and there are a couple of questions and exercises you can do. So definitely a good muscle to strengthen as you begin to enter your careers in marketing and advertising. Okay, any other questions? Anything at all?
If I could just go back to the insights, and again, it all goes back to human behavior and to what drives us. So that list that I showed you of all the human drives, why do we want something? What are we aspiring to? Are we self-actualizing? Right, somebody mentioned Maslow, and it really is about self-actualization.
Anything else? Robin, do you have any advice for someone who's just graduating or about to graduate for entering the industry?
Yes, absolutely. LinkedIn, people, LinkedIn network. You don't exist if you're not on LinkedIn, and really be very careful about your social media, about what you post. People will look you up, but reach out to people, especially right now. People have not gone back to their offices. It's a good time to say, hey, would you have coffee with me online for 10 minutes and just talk to me for a little bit? It's amazing how kind people are in the industry. And if they don't, they don't. But you could try. And you want to go to all the different websites, Working, Not Working. What's the one where, I forgot her name, Melissa and Maria, what's the one where she lists all the jobs and everything? Where she has the coffee time.
Coffee at a distance?
Coffee at a distance, but what's her?
We Are Next, that one?
Yes, We Are Next. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, We Are Next is a great, great resource. Go onto websites, look for postings on individual websites. Don't think, oh, well, I'll never get a job at Droga 5. Go for it. Go for it. But network, you have to network.
And on that note, we do have a web series session that was recorded a couple of weeks ago with Marnie Gordon, who talked about the power of networking and how to build your network in an organic way. So I definitely recommend you check that out if you weren't able to attend live, because that is the best advice any of you could take away from this, is that you really need to build your network early.
Build it early, follow people, follow agencies online, reach out to talent recruiters. You're doing them a favor because they need talent, they need fresh talent. So don't think that you're imposing. Join in on conversations, say something nice when an agency says they got an award, say congratulations. Make yourself visible. Maria and Melissa have been great at putting themselves out there on LinkedIn. Do you have any tips?
I was just saying how go to portfolio reviews, because that is super important. There's so many opportunities, especially on LinkedIn. If you follow an agency, you'll see someone go into a portfolio review, or go to ad schools. They have some portfolio reviews that that you can join in as well, or you could see other students' work. I found my first portfolio review was with the One Club, and I was so scared. It was my first one, and I didn't think I was good enough to have someone look at my work. But it's not really true at all, because at the end of the day, those people that are in the field, and they're just going to guide you to make you a stronger designer and art director. And it has helped me throughout my portfolio, my entire portfolio semester, and having a really good solid work come out of what people were saying when I went to portfolio reviews.
Great advice.
I second that statement as well. I know me and Maria would go together to these portfolio reviews. So if you have the opportunity to go in a team, definitely do so. But consider that these reviewers, they're looking at your work from an outside perspective, so it's so important to get that insight of what someone that doesn't know what you're working on, what do they think of it, And me, myself, I actually got recruited at a portfolio review. So don't be afraid to reach out to the people that you see and talk to there. So.
And remember, they're critiquing your work. They're not critiquing you. So try not to take it personally. Always say, I'll take what you say under consideration, be polite. It's a small world, but it's not about, they're not out to hurt you. Sometimes that reviewers don't know the best way to say something, but just think of it as about the actual one piece that you did, not about you.
That's great. And we do also have a portfolio review aspect of MADE. So if you're interested in that, even if you're not necessarily like an art director or copywriter, even if you're strategy or something else, you can still have a portfolio or a website. It can still be reviewed. So definitely take advantage of that service we offer throughout the summer. The sign up for that is on our website. So make sure you take advantage of that. Okay. Well, any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. All right. Well, another huge thank you to Robin. Your presentation was terrific. We all learned so much today. I definitely will be rewatching this. We did record the session today and it will be on our site in a couple of days. So in case you want to rewatch it, it'll be posted. And our next session will be next week on Wednesday, 6/16 at 6 p.m. Eastern, featuring Tiffany Perkins-Munn, who runs client analytics and insights for global marketing at BlackRock. She's a brilliant data scientist and also an incredible advocate for new talent. Her talk will help demystify the path to a successful career. So if you're about to enter the industry, I highly recommend you register for it. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in and enjoy your week.